All right, I think we're recording now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rook Community Meeting for June 11th, 2024. Looking for my screen to share. All right, I think we got it. You can see the agenda, right? Make sure I have the right thing shared. All right, so we'll get going on the milestones here. So 1.13, we did have 1.13.9 last month, and I believe no known issues reported for which we need a release. Let me just look at the project board. Yeah, so nothing there to speak of. So 1.13.10 currently has no plans for release, but it's certainly possible if something comes up and we need a release for that. So if there is ever a 1.13 fix needed, please do raise it in Slack and we can discuss there or comment on the issue as well. All right, 1.14 then. We did have a 1.14.5 release a couple of weeks ago. If we look at the release notes for that, it was just our biweekly update. Let's see, what were those fixes? So we did have an IPv6 binding issue. So that one is maybe the most critical one to mention. I know it affected at least a couple of people. So that fix is out there now. And then a few other smaller fixes in that release. So I think we're okay. Any comments on that release? Let's see. If not, we'll be up for our biweekly release this coming Thursday. I think so. We'll plan on that in the next couple of days for 1.14.6. I think in the 1.14 board, I need to review this. I didn't think to do it right before this meeting, but nothing in the blocking release column. We'll just get out there what we have. Just a comment on Squid. We are still waiting for the Squid release. I haven't seen that yet. And I assume it'll still be a bit because I don't think I've seen the RC release yet. Okay. Any questions around 1.14? Okay. Thanks, Blaine, for the note. So 1.15 then. So it's our next minor release. And if we look at about a 4-month cadence, our last release was the beginning of April. I tentatively put the end of July down, July 30th, which was kind of a date I picked out that kind of made sense as far as being in the middle of summer and vacations and things. But I think we always create the branch and beta release the week before that, and then get the blog and everything out with the release targeted for that date. Oh, I don't have the project board. Let me see if I can find that project board real quick. It should be this link here. And we do have some issues here that I know were in the roadmap for 1.15. Need to make sure this is updated though. It really hasn't been reviewed lately to make sure whatever we're planning on the release is in this board. So we should work on that board update. Yep, any questions for 1.15 or comments on the timeline? Nope. Okay, moving on. kubectl plugin. We did have the 0.9.1 release since we met last. That came with the functionality of the Rados Gateway admin tool to be able to run from the CLI. So that was a gap in the tool, but now we've got that out. And the goal being that people can use the plugin as their way of doing a CLI and a nicer CLI environment instead of trying to use the toolbox. Either one works, but hoping the plugin will be the preferred way for people. And if no comments for that, any questions or comments about any of those releases or milestones?
I'll mention that I moved my production onto 14, and it has been incredibly smooth.
Good news. Great. Yeah. A number of clusters or?
18.
Okay, that's a number.
There's still some long-running issues with the Ceph dashboard that I haven't resolved, like something screwy going on the way it interacts with RGW. It may be some old configuration they've got in place. But other than that, it was really smooth. I think the prod is on 14.2, and my test clusters are on 1.14.5, and I think next week we'll do a production push.
Mm-hmm. For the latest patch release?
Yeah.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Josh. And those dashboard issues, I know we've had some ongoing dashboard issues for a long time. Is anything in the Rook side that tracking that, or just dashboard trackers?
It's been going on for so long that I've lost track where it's at. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I run. So I have a Helm chart that runs basically Ceph CLI commands. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's being applied. And so I need to go back and see if maybe something that I was doing to work around something in the past is the cause of the problem now that has been fixed. So I'm mentioning it that I still have the problem, but I don't know if it's a real problem that's reproducible from a clean install.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Whenever there is an issue, I just want to understand if we are tracking it at least, and that we're addressing it. So,
yeah, there have been various complaints about this in the past. It was the Rook management module wasn't playing nice with some other stuff. So I think that was for Ganesha NSF, and so like turn it off, turn it back on as part of the install process to get things working. And that may no longer be necessary. So I need to go back and revisit it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Sounds good. If that's all for that, moving on to the topics, I added a few notes here to consider some Ceph Prometheus alerts. So a community member did submit a PR for updating to the latest alerts, the Prometheus rules. And this did get merged and backward to the 1.14 branch. So I believe, I mean, I don't expect any alerts to start firing that wouldn't be expected either, but just as there were a number of updates to these alerts. Most of them, I think, don't apply for Rook. They're more Ceph ADM alerts that just will be no ops in Rook. Just to keep them in sync with Ceph, it's easier to just bring them in as long as they don't start firing in Rook. But if there are any issues with the next releases, just be aware, I guess, that was merged. Yep. If no comments about that, we have the design. Move on to the design for the Ceph CSI operator. This one is I guess a big work item our team is working through. First for a little background, at Rook, since the start of Rook, basically we've had CSI operator, or not CSI operator, the CSI driver just deployed by Rook and an integral part of Rook. But then it's always been a little awkward how we've had the settings for CSI as kind of these global Rook operator settings. There's no CRDs to control them. And it just hasn't felt like the Kubernetes native way of doing it. So the CSI team is creating an operator for the CSI driver, which will take CSI settings on CRDs in the normal Kubernetes design fashion. And Rook will still make deployment of CSI as a first-class citizen and automated and all of that. So the upstream users don't need to worry about it. But just so people are aware, there is a new Ceph CSI operator repo under the Ceph org. Maybe I'll just click on it here to show here's a design doc in the Ceph CSI operator repo. So if you're interested, please do read through that doc. And then we've got a couple of issues where we're just discussing follow-up, like naming. How do we name the CRDs? Some design concerns we still have. And then what does it look like for Rook to integrate that? There's a number of points being discussed there. So it's a big change, hoping it's internal and transparent to users for the most part, other than making the settings more easily configurable on CRDs.
I badly want this. I'll just say I'm really enthusiastic about this. I did try to turn it on just following what's in the docs, and it creates a new pod, like a Rook Causey pod, and it was just crashing for me. And this was like a 30-minute run through, and I haven't revisited and filed a bug report, so I'm sorry. I will I will do that. Something didn't go right. But I will say there's one thing that I would like, and it doesn't seem to be part of the current Causey spec, so I don't know if now's a good time to discuss that or if this is just reeling things.
Oh, real quick, actually, I just want to clarify. This is for the CSI operator, and Causey is a different topic. So,
sorry, I already skipped ahead to Causey.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's just one letter difference, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the acronyms get a little confusing after a while.
Yeah. So to clarify, you're looking forward to some Causey changes?
Yeah,
Josh?
Causey. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so CSI operator is only related to non-object store things, actually, with RBD and Ceph, of course. But yeah, Causey. If there's no other questions on the CSI topic, we can move on to Causey. But just any comments on CSI though first? Anybody? Okay, yeah, let's go to Causey then. So Josh, if you want to continue.
Yeah. So like I said, I did briefly give it a try, and the pod was just crashing, and I need to revisit it. I burned down that test cluster since then, so let me try it again. But I'll say there's one thing that doesn't seem to be part of the Causey spec that I'm interested in, and I don't know if there's any plans for this to be part of Causey, but one of the issues that constantly comes up for me is I need to apply policy, like AWS IAM equivalent policy to buckets. And from my looking through Causey, that's not part of the spec now, but it's a problem that I have, and I don't really have a good solution for it right now. I'm thinking about trying to use Terraform and like running a GitHub action runner in the cluster so that I can have like a GitOpsy style thing of you push the config, and then because it can run, you can actually run the CI/CD agent within the cluster, then with Terraform, it could then like push the bucket policy. But that's something that comes up for me all the time. And right now we like have basically policy living in a Git repo, and somebody goes and manually applies it with a shell script.
Yeah, I mean that's good feedback to have. I know we have, I think, a like feature request tracker in Rook for supporting IAM policies for RGW. Definitely, this is one of the more complex work items because, right, like Causey is also supposed to be like a vendor agnostic like object storage utility, and
Yep,
I think
I get it.
like IAM policies are, I think, very S3 centric, and right, so it may be something that ends up being like, oh, this is a Ceph Cozy driver feature rather than a Cozy feature itself, but like that's still like, I mean that's still very valid and relevant, but like it does involve a lot of like, where does this live? Like, who is the proper actor to be involved in this? you know, and then also I have had a couple discussions with a like a SEF working group that is looking into kind of making the object storage landscape a little, well, maybe not even a little, but just like better, especially for new users. And we have discussed like IAM policies and how maybe like the better solution is to have like a kind of multi-policy sort of thing where you have a an amount of policy the user can specify and then an amount of policy that like the admin can specify, and like figuring out internally to like RGW like how to handle that. So
Yeah,
these
right now
discussions are
I was gonna say it's not really easy to script it right now because there's sequencing involved. You need to wait until RGW is actually up and then connect via RGW to push the policy.
yeah. This is something that is like on a list of things I'm tracking, but it's not been my highest priority, partly just because like I know that there's like a Pandora's box. Once I start like peeling away layers, it's going to get more challenging, but I will like double check, make sure that that's on my list and that I can chat about RGW developers at like the next working group meeting about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is the level of I don't even have a concrete suggestion of how to implement this. Just say that it's functionality that I would appreciate having. It's a problem that comes up when I deploy a service, and Causey will actually help with a lot of those things. Like as for other people, Blaine and I have discussed this before. Often I want to deploy a service and I just want like one or two S3 users, and I would like to be able to pre-create a few buckets and all those things, and just want it to go as part of the deployment push. And often now I need bucket policy. Like I have 4 users and like 2 of them need access to these buckets and can write to that one bucket and whatever. And I have to express that some way. And right now that ends up being managed basically by hand. So it would be nice to package that up in some way, but I completely understand that this is a hard problem.
Yeah, as part of like the Cozy spec, one of the items that is like really quite high on my list is making sure that Cozy can better handle the various many to one, one to many, one to one, like user, or like what Cozy calls access, like access and bucket relationships, so that and it seems like some of that might help with your use case quite a bit. So it might be, it would be interesting for me to like get a description of your workflow like offline.
Yeah, sure.
To also kind of investigate like what parts of Cozy will like achieve this already, and then what parts are still like missing.
The reason I played with this the other day was I've been doing a lot of testing of, you know what Mimir is? It's like a scaled up version of Cortex, Prometheus stuff. And so I keep burning down test clusters and spinning them up. And as part of Mimir coming up, it needs to have S3 and it needs to have some buckets pre-created for it. I mean, the trivialist case, it needs a user and it needs like some buckets pre-created or it'll fail. And right now I've got like a shell script that I run after it comes up that just logs in and like creates the buckets so that Mimir doesn't fail. But that's sort of an annoyance from when you're like burning things down and reinstalling them all the time.
Yeah, I feel like a user has also expressed something similar with, I think, like running a local instance of GitLab. But yeah, I'll record this here as well, just for my notes as well.
But yeah, anytime, Blaine, just let me know. I'm more than happy to, you know, we can hop in and do some live sessions or whatever you need. I'm more than happy. I'm grateful for the attention.
Okay. Yeah, let me, I'll record that in a note and then I'll figure out when is a good time to like sync up. And yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, sounds good. Always good to have feedback from real world users. I think the rest of us here are, you know, engineers. We work on it, but don't actually run it in production. So production feedback is helpful.
Yeah, I'll just make it a general invitation to you, Travis, and anyone else on this call or in the dev circle. I'm more than happy to do sort of a tour of our infrastructure and how we use Rook and Ceph, and I'm more than happy anytime.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out separately then. Okay. Well, that was the last item we see in the agenda. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up? Going once, going twice. Okay.
I have one thing.
Well, thanks everyone. Oh yeah.
Another. I have a problem. I don't think there'll be a solution, but I'll lay out. So I've been trying to reduce the number of OSDs that I have. So most of my clusters are somewhere between 2 to 4 OSDs per disk, depending on the epoch when they're installed. And as the number of drives have climbed, we're trying to like reduce the number of OSDs. So I would like to start migrating to a single OSD per drive. And
you have multiple OSDs per drive currently?
Yeah, just largely
Okay.
because of inertia, right? Like it got set as the global config, and that's the way it was. And so now I would like to start beating that down, just trying to reclaim some memory from some of these clusters. And what I've started doing that is that what I've noticed is that if you have at least 2 in the settings of 2 OSDs per drive in Rook, then it actually creates the partition table for you, and sets up LVM or whatever. But when you set it to 1, it doesn't do any of that. So I tried this just to kind of see what would happen, and like I have 2 clusters that have no partition table, and Rook is happily using them. It's not really what I want. So there's sort of like this mode where I would like to be able to set 1 OSD per drive, but I would still like partitioning and probably LVM setup so that at least there's a partition table when you look at the drive.
So you can see something on the drive?
Yeah, I mean it's clear in the interim what I need to do is just start manually creating a partition table on the drives. But I have a new cluster with 216 drives that need to be, so I need to script this in some way. So my super lazy admin request would be a mode to say I still want to use LVM and use all the existing workflow, but I just want a single LV.
Yeah, we don't have an option for that currently because we do everything in Ceph raw mode as much as possible. The multiple OSDs per device is the one or one of the few exceptions where it still uses LVM mode, and so that's why you're still seeing it there. But yeah, raw mode is what we use, and then you can't see how it's not visible. So
I mean, raw mode is probably what I want, but I want the super lazy thing where I don't have to go and partition all the drives. I mean, this is not a major thing, but that's the functionality that I would like to have that's not there.
And you're saying that so you can see which disks Rook is using, or
just so to know that the drive is used. I often have drives installed that aren't used. Like I live in a world where any capacity will be used as soon as it's available. So this isn't a technical thing. This is sort of a political thing. So I have one cluster right now where I've gone and already pre-added new NVMEs to all the drives, but they're not online. They're just sitting there because I know that eventually I'm going to need the capacity, and it's going to be a panic. And if I have to like go through my procurement cycle of buying drives and installing them or whatever, it takes weeks to add capacity. So I have drives just sitting there unused. And so sort of when I look at an NVMe drive and it has no partition table on it, it indicates to me that it is an unused drive. And I don't have Rook set to use all available drives. I go through and explicitly list, dev disk by ID and out that way, so I know it gets used.
Right. I know I'm pretty sure there was a GitHub issue where this was discussed, like a different way to detect which drives are in use instead of just relying on LS block or whatever. So maybe I'll try and find that and ping you as well.
So right now I do that. If I log into host and I run ls block, then I can clearly see which drives are being used by Ceph because there's like the UUID in the LV name, right? And I just know that that's Ceph.
Right. But with raw mode, you don't see that.
You don't see it, yeah.
Right.
But also, I would like to not have to like manually partition these things, which is, I guess it's a really trivial whine, but as lazy admin spinning up a new cluster, it would be nice not to have to go through and come up with some script or something to create a partition table in all of them.
Right, and raw mode is the preferred way for Ceph, just to not even have LVM in the stack, so that's why they do it. But,
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, you know,
Okay.
taking device mapper out of the loop is useful.
but yeah, maybe we could take that offline for finding a better way to so you can avoid partitioning. Yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head though what that was though.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's all my complaints this week.
All right.
Just 1 second, Travis.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm completely on the wrong track here, but I was wondering if the local storage operator could help with this in any way. But I think it's only hitting on entire disks, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the local storage operator LSO is in use, you could look at its CRs to see what's in use. But yeah, I'm assuming Josh isn't using it in this case, so it's more of an
Yeah, I guess so.
OpenShift.
I was going to say I thought that was an OpenShift thing, so I'm not using it.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was
Anything
the only
else?
comment here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, sounds good. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I guess we'll call it. Have a good day.
Thanks for hosting.